We were promised gleaming, futuristic cities rising from the desert floor. A 170-kilometer mirrored skyscraper cutting through the Saudi Arabian landscape, powered entirely by renewable energy, capable of housing millions with no cars and no carbon footprint. Bullet trains connecting San Francisco to Los Angeles in under 3 hours, a clean, efficient alternative to the chaos of highways and airports. Artificial islands transformed into tropical paradises, built from nothing to house 700,000 residents in a new kind of smart city. These weren't just construction projects. They were blueprints for the future of human civilization. However, behind the slick computer renders and the breathless headlines, a very different story is unfolding. These megaprojects, once sold as the defining achievements of the 21st century, are collapsing under the weight of their own ambition. Budgets have exploded past $100 billion. Timelines have stretched into decades, and in some cases, the promised cities are standing nearly empty. So what is really going wrong? How did political pressure, financial collapse, and pure fantasy combine to bring down the world's most ambitious projects? And what can these colossal failures teach us about the limits of human ambition? In this video, we'll take you deep into 3 of the most spectacular megaproject disasters on the planet, and the toxic forces that brought each one down. Megaprojects have become the currency of national ambition. Governments around the world are pouring trillions of dollars into infrastructure so vast, so technically complex, that they have no precedent in human history. Entire cities built from scratch, rail networks spanning continents, artificial islands rising from the sea. The numbers alone are staggering. Saudi Arabia committed over $500 billion to NEOM alone. California voters approved a $33 billion bullet train, a figure that has since quadrupled. Malaysia's Forest City was backed by $100 billion in Chinese investment, but nearly every one of these projects shares a common DNA, a pattern of failure so consistent that researchers have given it a name. In the construction industry, it's called strategic misrepresentation, the systematic understating of costs, the deliberate overstating of benefits, all to secure funding for projects that were never truly viable. But megaprojects don't fail because of engineering. They fail because of people. At the heart of almost every failing megaproject, you'll find a powerful figure, a leader with a grand, sweeping vision. They promise to build a legacy, to put their nation on the map with an iconic structure that defies all convention. Vision is essential, but it becomes dangerous when it's detached from reality. There is no better example today than Saudi Arabia's NEOM. Launched in 2017 by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, NEOM was the crown jewel of Saudi Vision 2030, a $500 billion plan to pivot the kingdom away from its oil dependency. At its heart was the Line, a 170-kilometer-long mirrored city, a vertical skyscraper stretched across the desert, designed to house 9 million people with no cars, no roads, and no carbon emissions. The Crown Prince himself vowed to prove the naysayers wrong. But the project has been plagued with problems from the start, many of them stemming directly from the immense political pressure to make an uncompromising vision a reality. To clear the 26,500 square kilometer site, the Saudi government began the compulsory eviction of local tribes, including the Huwaitat, who have lived on that land for centuries. When residents peacefully protested, they were met with a violent crackdown. Human rights organizations documented arbitrary arrests, unfair trials, and death sentences for those who spoke out. One resident, Abdul Rahim al-Huwaiti, was killed by security forces in 2020 after posting videos opposing the evictions. This is what happens when political ego becomes the primary driver. The human cost is dismissed as collateral damage. The pressure to maintain an image of success means the project barrels forward even as the problems mount, even as the warnings grow louder. And yet, reality always finds a way through. By early 2024, reports emerged that NEOM was being dramatically scaled back. The 170-kilometer line has been reduced to an initial phase of just 2.4 kilometers. The 2030 population target has been slashed from 1.5 million residents to fewer than 300,000. The political dream had collided with the immovable wall of reality, and reality won. But political pressure is only half the story. When the money runs out, the dream collapses in an entirely different way. California's high-speed rail project is the textbook case of financial collapse. When voters approved it in 2008, they were promised a $33 billion bullet train connecting San Francisco to Los Angeles, with trains running by 2020. It was sold as a futuristic, efficient, and financially smart alternative to the chaos of freeways and airports. Nearly 2 decades later, the project is a financial black hole. Billions have been spent. Not a single mile of track is operating with passengers. The estimated cost for the full line now sits between $89 billion and $128 billion, and some projections put it above $200 billion. The completion date has been pushed to 2040 at the earliest. The original funding plan relied heavily on private investment and federal grants that never materialized as promised. The federal government has withdrawn billions at various points, leaving California holding the bag. And there is a deeper, more troubling problem. The initial segment under construction in the Central Valley likely will not generate enough passenger revenue to cover its own operating costs, a direct contradiction of the legal requirements in the original voter proposition. A McKinsey study found that poor execution was responsible for cost and time overruns in a staggering 73% of troubled megaprojects. Another found that 98% of megaprojects face significant overruns or delays. These aren't exceptions. At this scale, they're the rule. But the most dangerous force behind megaproject failures is simpler than politics or finance. It's fantasy. Building billion-dollar projects on assumptions that were never grounded in reality. This usually shows up in 2 devastating ways: betting on technology that doesn't exist yet, and building for a market that was never really there. NEOM was promoted with concepts ripped from science fiction: flying taxis, a giant artificial moon, a Jurassic Park-style island of robotic dinosaurs. The plan to host the 2029 Asian Winter Games in a desert ski resort called Trojana drew widespread criticism, and by early 2026, the Games had been indefinitely postponed. But the clearest example of the fantasy trap is Malaysia's Forest City. Launched in 2014, this $100 billion project was a joint venture between a Malaysian company and the Chinese property giant Country Garden. Built on 4 reclaimed islands off the coast of Johor, it was designed to be a futuristic metropolis for 700,000 people. A tropical smart city marketed almost exclusively to wealthy Chinese buyers looking for a second home in paradise. For a brief period, the model worked. Initial sales were promising. But the entire business case rested on a single, fragile assumption: that capital would keep flowing freely out of China. In 2017, the Chinese government imposed strict capital controls, effectively cutting off Forest City's primary market overnight. Sales collapsed. The situation was then made dramatically worse by political turmoil. In 2018, Malaysia's Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad publicly condemned the project, announcing that foreign buyers would not be granted visas to live there. the statement spooked the remaining investors. Then came the pandemic, another devastating blow. Today, Forest City stands as a monument to wishful thinking. While recent government incentives have brought the population to around 20,000 as of mid-2025, that is still a tiny fraction of the planned 700,000. A city was built for a specific customer, and that customer, thanks to political and economic forces that were entirely predictable in retrospect, simply never showed up. These projects are not isolated failures. They are symptoms of a deeper problem, a global system where ambition routinely outpaces accountability, where political pressure silences expert warnings, and where the people who pay the price are rarely the ones making the decisions. The lesson is not that we should stop dreaming. It's that ambition must be paired with honesty. Honest budgeting, honest timelines, honest assessments of whether the technology even exists to deliver what's being promised. When 98% of megaprojects face significant cost overruns or delays, not a majority, but nearly all of them, the problem isn't the engineering. The problem is the system that greenlights these projects in the first place. What do you think? Is there any megaproject that can actually deliver on its promises? Or is the entire model fundamentally broken? And which of these three failures surprised you the most? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. We're dedicated to uncovering the truth behind the world's most ambitious engineering projects and the forces that shape the cities of tomorrow.